Last week we talked about characters, before that the world, before that the genre, the art, the structure, the plot to the idea. So we have 8 videos with 8 links in the craft chain, and every single one of them happens before I write a single word of prose. So today I want to talk about the bit that everybody thinks is the writing, sitting down, opening the document and putting the sentences on the page. When I sit down to write prose, most of the work is already done. The prose isn't where I'm thinking, it's where I'm pouring out what I've already thought. But if this is the first time we're meeting, I'm Andy Guile, independent author and publisher. I've got one book finished, another well into production, and a free novella over at akguile.com. I'm writing under the pen name AK Guile, and I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm just a bloke sharing what's working for me as I learn this. If you find something useful here, do me a favour, please like and subscribe and help me grow the channel. Before I write a single word, I'm working through 3 layers of voice. So let's give them names so we don't get confused. Layer 1 is the point of view decision at the book level. This is your first person, your third person, your second person if you're feeling brave. All of my books are written in the third person. I made that decision some time ago. I just find it easier to write in the third person. It applies to the Greymere novels, it applies to the Ellen story, and when I start the historical novels, they'll be third person as well. So when I sit down to write, this layer is already locked in. I'm not deciding it, I'm just respecting it. Now there's lots of videos out there about this, so we'll move past the big point of view. Layer 2 is book voice, and this is the one I don't think gets talked about enough. The Greymere series has a voice, and the novellas have a different voice. Same author, same city, same characters in some cases, but a different prose voice. The Greymere voice has a simple principle. Say the true thing simply, and let the reader complete the details. Restraint is the power. Short sentences. No words aren't earning their place. Greymere characters don't feel things clearly, so the prose don't feel things clearly either. It states the physical fact, it lets the reader name the emotion. The Ellen novellas are the opposite. Long flowing sentences held together with and. One short observation, then a follow-through, chasing the practical implication. Dry, ending but a sharp, and the prose breathe in a way the Greymere prose don't. The Greymere voice exists because my crime novels are about damaged people in a damaged city. They demand restraint. The novellas are about a woman discovering a place she already loves. The boot needs warmth and allowed to breathe. The subject matter dictates the voice. I just have to write inside it. Now layer 3 is character point of view. Inside the book voice, whose head is the reader in for that particular scene? So let me give an example. Johnny and Leah are sat at the kitchen table. It's a Sunday morning. Leah's reading the paper. Greymere Rangers are about to get relegated again. So if I write that in the Greymere voice from Leah's point of view, it sounds something like this. She glanced at him over the top of the paper. He was at the window, mug in both hands, the way he always held it. She'd noticed that, the way he held things, like he wasn't sure they'd stay. Johnny, listen to this. Rangers might get relegated again. He turned, half a smile. Not the full one yet, but closer than last week. So now let's take that same beat, Greymere voice, but let's do it from Johnny's point of view. She was reading the paper. The light caught her hair, black, with that flash of copper she only gets near the window. For half a second he wasn't sure where he was. Ellen used to sit at that table. Ellen used to read the paper. He pulled them up closer. Listen to this, Leah said. Rangers might get relegated again. He smiled. He didn't have to think about smiling now. That was new. It's the same room, it's the same beat, the difference is whose head you're in. That's the character point of view doing the work. Now let me write the same beat one more time. Same characters, same kitchen. Leah's point of view again. But this time I'm writing it as though it belongs inside the novella series. She looked at him over the top of the paper, and he was standing at the window, holding his mug the way he always held things now, carefully with both hands, like he wasn't sure they'd stay with loosened his grip. She'd noticed that weeks ago and had decided not to mention it, because the noticing wouldn't really help him. Johnny, listen to this. Rangers might get relegated again. He turned, and it wasn't a full smile, not yet, but it was closer than last week, and closer than the week before, and that was good, and that was really good. Same room, same beat, same Leah looking at Johnny, but now the voice is breathing differently. Longer sentences, the and connectors, the follow-through thought, the self-introduction are deciding that was good. That's the book voice changing while everything else stays the same. So those are the 3 layers. The third person, already locked in, book voice, Greymere or novella, and character point of view, whose head, and I decide that per scene. Once I know whose head I'm in, I go to the codex. That's my story bible. If it's Johnny, I open Johnny. If it's Leah, I open Leah. If there's a new character walking to the scene, which after last week's video we know means I stop and I build them properly first, then I open the codex and I read. I read the backstory, I read the voice notes, I look at the image I generated in Midjourney, I remind myself who this person is, what they sound like, what they're carrying, how they see the world. I find if I skip this step, the prose come out flat. The characters on the page sound like me, not like them. Johnny ends up using words Johnny would never use. Leah reacts to something the way I'd react, not the way that she would. The character drifts. And that goes equally for the locations as well. The codex is the bridge between the character I built and the prose I'm about to write. Now I'm ready. I know the big point of view. I know the book voice. I know the character point of view. I know the character. I know the location. Then I write the beats. Now the beats for me are just a very loose framing. Johnny and Leah at the kitchen table. Leah discusses the Rangers. That's a beat. One sentence, no detail, no dialogue, nothing more. And then I write the prose to that beat. 300 words, maybe 400. The next beat, 300 words. The next beat. A scene is the collection of those beats. The scene tells me where I need to go in the story. The beats get me there. And that discipline keeps me tight. It stops the prose sprawling, stops me wandering, stops me writing 4 pages of Johnny and Leah at the kitchen table talking about the Rangers. But I don't allow the beats to trap me. As Bob Ross would say, if he were an author, writing is full of happy little accidents. There's a scene in Ellen's story, the free novellas over at akgal.com, where Johnny takes Ellen out on a Saturday morning, years before the list, years before Johnny fell apart. They're in their early courtship, and they end up standing on the bridge that crosses a river grey at the end of the lake. I was writing from Ellen's point of view, so the reader sees Johnny through her eyes. She's interested in him, listening to him, watching him come alive as he talks about the city's history. What used to be behind the bridge, how the Narrows used to drive the mills, how his father worked in one of those mills. My planned beats were Johnny and Ellen on the bridge. Johnny shares his history. Ellen falls a little further for him. That was it. That was the beat. But earlier that week, I've been building the museum section over on the website, the bit you get access to with 3 Greymere membership. And in building it, I'd invented Arthur, art to his friends, the curator, old, warm, full of stories nobody asked him to tell anymore. He existed in the codex, he existed on the website, but he'd never walked on a page. And in the writing, Johnny mentioned the museum. I didn't plan that, he just mentioned it. And Ellen said she'd love to see it. And the next thing I knew, I was writing 3 new beats I hadn't planned. Johnny and Ellen walking to the museum, pushing open the door, meeting Arthur for the first time. Arthur lighting up because somebody's actually interested in what he has to say. That's what I call a discovered beat. And they made the scene better than the scene I planned. They gave the reader a moment of warmth. They put Arthur on the page, so when he matters later, if you ever visit the museum, you already know him, you've already met him. And I didn't have to stop to build him or the museum. They were already there in the codex. I just had to go and revisit them. So when the discovered beat arrived, I could follow it. So the last bit, and this is the one where I disagree with a lot of writing advice. There's a school of thought that says, write the whole first draft without editing, just get it down, don't look back. That works for some people, and I'm not knocking it. If it works for you, brilliant. But it doesn't work for me. It produces drift. I write the scene beat by beat, and when I finish the scene, I read it back, same session. Light pass, fixing the obvious stuff, typing the lines, catching the repetition, hearing where the voice has slipped. And the reason I do it scene by scene, I learn from what I've just written. I see where I've used the same word 3 times in a paragraph. I see where I've leaned on a phrase I keep leaning on. And when I write the next scene, I don't repeat those mistakes. The next scene starts cleaner because the last scene taught me something about my writing. If I wait until the whole draft is done, I'm looking at 150,000 words of the same mistakes repeated all the way through. Whereas if I catch it scene by scene, the mistake stops appearing about a quarter of the way through the book. And I'm a better writer by the end of the draft than I was at the beginning. It's a light touch, it's scene by scene, I follow the beat, I hold the thread, I learn the lessons. So the practical takeaway for this week. Next time you sit down to write a scene, before you start typing, ask those questions in that order. Which book's voice am I in? Whose head am I in? Do I know them well enough to write them? What's actually happening in the scene, beat by beat? And when the scene is done, reread it, tighten it, learn from it. The prose isn't where the work happens, it's where the work you've done shows up. If the prose feel flat, the answer isn't to write better sentences. The answer is to go back and check what you decided before you sat down. Give it a try and let me know how it goes. Now next week we're putting all of this together, the first draft. We've spoken a lot about the links in the chain, the plot, the art, the genre, the world, the characters, the prose. And once you've made all those decisions, you sit down and you write a draft. And the first draft isn't going to be perfect. Mine never is. The first draft is the start of the next phase. And that's it for today. So if you found this useful, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.